Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Business Coaching Secrets. This is Karl Bryan coming at you, sans Road Dog. Road Dog not feeling well today, so I told him to stay in bed and get that beauty sleep. Lord knows he needs it. Ha, 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 ha. That was funny. No, it wasn't, and I get that. Anywho, so Road Dog has sent me a couple of notes that I'm going to riff off of, and I'm probably just going to kind of riff. We just had our pre-show, I got to tell you. If you're not on the inside, you guys should be finding a way to get to that pre-show because possibly there were a couple nuggets dropped that you want to be listening into. But anywho, here we go. So Road Dog sent just, Karl, just talk about some powerful things that you have been thinking about. I always find that to be interesting, and we get some positive feedback about it. Okay, so powerful things that I have been thinking about. Actually, we literally just now, speaking to a vet, she's talking about, I can't quite remember how it went, but, she met with somebody. She's one of our coaches. She's reasonably new, having a little bit of success early on, not monumental and crushing it, but at the same time, progress equals happiness. And she's well and truly making some strides and making some great connections. The clients are starting to flow. She's going through somebody who, reciprocity. Reciprocity is a very powerful thing. If you buy me a Christmas present, there's a really good chance one's coming back. You send me a Christmas card, there's a really good chance Christmas card's coming back, right? You do something good for me, people want to do good things in return. So she did that, and basically she's now been invited to a networking function. But not, like the BNI, which is fine. BNI is fine, but it's the sandbox all day long. The one that she's getting invited to, or did get invited to, is a reasonably high level one. And one of the people that is coming is actually the mayor. So, stop looking for the right things and start looking for the right people is kind of the way that I would, kind of frame that, and by the way, when you meet the right people, are you going to be able to make the right connection? Are you going to be able to follow through? Are they going to send you clients? Are they going to become a client? Is that going to become a long-standing relationship? Again, you're not able to do this in a minute, a day, an hour, a day, or a week, but you got to work on becoming that right person, right? So maybe the balance complement that thought. It's not, what do they say? It's about being the right place at the right time. And I would say that that's not necessarily correct word. How do I word that? It's about being the right person at the right place at the right time. Now that is how you get somewhere. One of the things I talked to a vet about in the pre-show is that, delayed gratification, we said it in a different way, but delayed gratification. The most successful people in the world are people that are willing to do things today, tomorrow, this week, this month, maybe this year, and not be rewarded for it in any way, shape, or form for an undefined period of time, which for the average bear, that can be challenging, but that is something, and there's lots of documented information. I talked about, I think it's called the marshmallow test. There's a book about it. But bottom line is when kids were offered a marshmallow, I think that there were three groups, but one is that if they wanted a marshmallow, they could eat it now, and they got one. The second group, I believe, was able to they would get two marshmallows if they waited a defined period of time, call that 3 hours. And then there was a third group where if they waited an undefined period of time, they would get 3 marshmallows or more, right? So that they had it now, they got one. If they waited a defined period of time, they got 2. And if they waited an undefined period of time, they got significantly more, a way bigger reward, but it might not have come that day, that, you know what I mean? It might not have come that day or that week, but they had to wait. So can you wait? Could you go to the networking function and be, happy to go and do these types of events without having an automatic payoff, right? So question, and by the way, so I would just throw it to you. So are you looking for the right people actively? Have you taken the time to define what the right person is, who that right person is? And if you haven't, it's time to grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, TTT, time to think, go into a quiet room, no internet, no TV, no phone, no disruptions, no toilet breaks, no nothing. You go into a room and just write down, okay, who are these people? And by the way, if you were to press me and say, well, help me define that, it's the accountant, right? Is it the accountant with 7 partners, 17 partners, 30 partners? I don't know, but my guess would be no, because that's going to be really difficult to get an answer, to get a relationship where they're going to start referring you. But what about an accountant, private practice, been around for about a decade, has a great relationship, a great reputation, goes to networking type functions, and you can kind of see them in and around? That's an accountant that you might be able to, get a deal done where they start referring people to you, right? Um, Maybe it's the promotional company. They sell mugs, they sell T-shirts, they sell hats. What do they really sell? They're selling marketing and they're selling branding, but the business owner doesn't know what it is that they're looking for, so they end up buying it from the wrong person, right? And that would be the promotional company. Is when the promotional company does the golf balls and the hats, are they really solving a problem? And when I dare say no, so they might be in a really strong position to be referring your services, and now you've got a JV relationship with that individual. Maybe it's an advertising medium. It's local newspaper, the local radio station, the local XYZ. Um, or maybe a different way of framing that could be like the right client to sponsor, right? So like Tom Brady's wife has a doggy daycare. I've got no idea, by the way. I would very surprised if they actually got divorced. Anywho, no doubt you get the example. Um, if you were working with Tom Brady's wife, and then you sat with the chiropractor, you sat with the dentist, you sat with the landscaper, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, and you were able to drop, oh yeah, well I don't like, I work with Tom Brady's wife, Gisele, and I have been for X amount of time. Like, do you think that that might make you a little bit more attractive? Do you think that might make you a little bit more magnetic? Do you might think that might reframe things that, whoa, Gisele, she could pick anyone to be her business coach, but she picked this guy or this gal. I don't know. By the way, this sponsorship, right, worked okay for Michael Jordan and Nike. It works okay for shoe companies, clothing labels, tennis racket companies, etc. That might work for you. So what client are you sponsoring with the vision of selling through, not just to, or leveraging that relationship, right? So that would be defining who those people are that you might want to be working with. Here's a conversation I had with somebody pretty close to me just recently, where I said, "Look, you are really good. Like, I've known this person for a long period of time, and seen them operate. There's no question. Front end, this person is awesome. Back end, this person is a disaster. Bit of a what I mean? A little bit on the harsh side, but pretty close. And no doubt and by the way, there's other businesses that are awesome on the back end, or individuals. They're awesome on the back end. They're absolutely horrific on the front end. Can't sell, can't sell, can't sell. And then conveniently not reading books about selling, not doing programs or about selling, spending exactly zero time educating themselves on selling. So therefore they maintain their inability to close. Well, think about a partnership. And when I say partnership, the hardest ship to steer is a partnership. So I'm not necessarily talking about something formalized. I'm just talking about, so somebody on the back end doing operations, partnering with somebody who on the front end is very good at promoting. But mistake that people make, by the way, you might know this instinctively, but the really good salesperson, guess who they go into business with if they don't have somebody in their ear and guiding them? And that's another salesperson. It's categorically ridiculous, so common. I could give you stories about that one. Just trust me on that one. They need a bit of guidance to be able to pick the right partner. You might need a little bit of guidance on how to pick your partner, but if you're really good front end, pick, maybe there's a coach out there you're going to partner with to do the back end. And if you're back end, maybe there's a super outgoing, networking, networker on steroids that you could partner with and, build something up and you guys could share in the revenues, et cetera, on an informal basis. And you might want, if it's going super well, then look at formalizing it. Don't formalize it until you've seen it work well. So okay, so I'm going to leave that one there. That's, like the frame is you're looking for the right people. You got to define those people. And my question is, do you have a list of the right people? And do you have a list of characteristics defining the right individuals? So when you meet them at the networking function, or you get referred to them, or you have somebody mention somebody to you with the potential to get an introduction, do you know what that individual, have you defined what that individual is, has the characteristics? The answer to that is normally a resounding no, and I would encourage you to solve that problem for yourself. Here's another thought. Like, what is it? Road Dog sent me a question, and it was a little bit, it was worded differently than this, but I'm going to word it in my own freestyle way here. Is that, what's one thing that if a business coach doesn't get, doesn't understand, doesn't address, they will have next to zero chance of success with their business coaching / business consulting company? My answer to that today would be very different than what it would be in the past. And I'm going to answer with context. You gotta, without context, it's going to be very, and I'm going to, if you guys have ever heard me talk, how do you, if I'm going to coach you or anybody else, I got to do two things. Well, there's A, B, and C. A is I've got to clearly define the little red arrow, you are here. Okay, so I got to establish where you're at. And then secondarily, what I got to do is define what it is that you want, which sounds easy. I got to tell you, it's about a million times harder than it sounds. But I got to establish what it is that you want. And then B, so that's A, that's C. And then B is basically the road in between. And that's fundamentally the coaching, where I help you get from A to B. If I can clearly define and well define those 2 points, we're going to have a semi-easy relationship as mentor mentee, let's say. So context is just understanding it. Said differently, in the same family, I've said this many a times in different podcasts, but the ultimate competitive advantage is the ability to see the entire playing field. So I don't want to say that this is the exact same, but it falls into the same category. So I'm going to encourage you to be thinking about that. So like Michael Jordan, why was he so successful as a basketball player? Is he wasn't looking at what was going on. He was looking at the entire playing field. And if Scottie Pippen, hadn't scored yet, he would make sure that he got Scottie Pippen the ball so that he got a couple baskets, got a few points, and started feeling good about himself. Because Jordan knew in the fourth quarter he was going to show up, but what he needed Scottie Pippen and the other boys to be showing up as well. So he was seeing the dynamics of the entire court. Wayne Gretzky would say that differently, where he said he skated to where the puck was going. He didn't skate to where the puck was, right? So that would fall into that. But like context. Okay, so the way that you'll see the textbook explain this would be like, the fish is the last person to know that they're in water. Like fish literally doesn't know that water is all around them. That's just the way things are. That's what I mean by context. It's a child that grows up in total poverty. They don't know that around the kitchen table, talking about welfare and how unfair everything is, maybe they don't know that that is not normal. It is their normal. Or go to the other side of it, where you have a family or a child that grows up in an uber wealthy family, maids, nannies, and the nanny is the person they spend more time with the nanny than they do their parents. Well, they don't know that other kids don't have that they don't know, like the fish with water, they don't know that that is not normal, right? Maybe another example, maybe is, let's say you got a girl who grows up with a non-present daddy. Okay, well, what happens in that dynamic? If you're coaching, you'll probably understand this at a high level. But when a daughter grows up with a non-present daddy, there's an insane, very often, there's a craving for that love that is very difficult to put on a scale. It would be really difficult to measure because it would just literally go off the scale, right? So, and then what does that girl tend to do, right? Things are cyclical. This isn't, yeah, things are cyclical. No, don't you understand that? But then she chooses a boyfriend. There's two people to choose from. One who's giving her an insane amount of attention, and then another boy who's not giving her attention and kind of doing the whole hard to get, again, it's the guy with the Harley, the guy with the leather pants, the guy getting in trouble in school, etc. Which one does she choose? Have a guess, right? And she chooses that which is familiar, right? And then, by the way, she gets dumped or she gets cheated on, let's assume, by that person. Does she pick the next person? Does she learn from that experience? Or does the next boyfriend similar, where it's the bad boy instead of the guy fawning after her, she chooses the bad boy again, right? And then what happens there? She, has a bad experience. And then, and that could be cheating, that could be a abuse thing, mental, physical, etc. And the cycle continues, right? Well, what happens with my experience, maybe I'm wrong, okay? I'm cool to be wrong here, by the way, so hopefully I'm not triggering anyone. But I want you to picture her heart, and daddy doesn't give her attention. What does she do? She puts a little protective layer over her heart. Boyfriend number one comes along, cheats on her, treats her poorly, let's just say, like she feels like it's just a really bad breakup and she doesn't feel good about it. Takes a long time to get over. What does she do? She puts another little layer on top of her heart, and then another little layer, and then another little layer. And what do you end up with at the age of, let's just call it 40? A masculine woman who's operating from a very protective place as opposed to a soft feminine place, right? And by the way, maybe I'm wrong, but just have a look at some of people that you grew up with and have a look at them from the age of 15 to the age of 40. And maybe you could see at the age of 15, they were very different when they were 40. And at the age of 40, they were operating. And by the way, then they have a child, and then dad's not around. And then what does she have to do? She has to play mommy and then daddy. What I'm getting at is think of this as context. Where is she, like, she ends up in the business world and then operating from a place of masculinity as opposed to from a place of femininity. I can tell you, a woman in the business world operating from the feminine is significantly, I'm going to dare say, infinitely more powerful than a woman that I just described, protecting herself and operating from more masculine place, right? So good. It's layers. The way this would be described by a Harvard PhD type would be layers of distortion. The layer on top, the layer up top. But at the end of the day, it's water around a fish. She doesn't realize that all this is happening and that she craves that love from her daddy back in the day, and then it's not quite there. It's a business owner who fails early on and then operates from a real, like, rather than swinging for the fences, from a real defensive, I don't want to go belly up kind of position. Which, how does that end up? You know what I mean? Without meeting that individual, how big is their business going to be able to grow? And the answer is that it's kind of operating with a bit of a handbrake, but they don't know because of that context, right? So, I, I don't know. Men are interested in things, and then women are interested in people generally, right? Women take little things and make them big. Men take big things and make them small. That's just context. So I understand. By the way, and fear of triggering anything or anyone, right? Just have, I don't know, maybe I'm horrifically wrong and I am totally okay with that. What I want you to do is, when you're working with your client, if I'm working with a woman, when I am operating with the woman, like, coaching relationship, it is different than when I'm operating with a man. You know what I mean? Just understanding that it's not in our DNA, it is different. But I got to establish that little red arrow, you are here, to really understand their context. So the one thing, what I started this with, and I could be doing a horrific job, but it's like, you've got to understand context to be able to accomplish those big swing for the fences, multiple seven figure, 8 figure business successes. And as their coach, to be able to guide them, direct them, point them in the right direction. I believe that you need to understand context. How do you get there? Little red arrow. You are here for you. And don't think that you're not bringing your own little experiences into that relationship. And, in some cases, you're assuming that they're going to operate in a certain way and they're operating categorically different. You go, why are they doing that? By understanding the little red arrow, you are here, and, context, and then like layers of distortion and that kind of thing that can happen over time. I think it's going to make your life with your clients significantly easier. Remember, there's no such thing as a bad student. There's only a bad teacher. You can absolutely get that client that says, oh, I just want you to do it all for me, or I just don't have time, I'm overwhelmed, yada, yada, yada. There is a way to get through that. So you gotta damn well find it. And guess what? It's bloody hard, really hard. And remember, because if I ask you what you want with 80% predictability, if not 95% predictability, you will answer with what you don't want. And by the way, test this. Ask a client what it is that they want, and then watch what they answer with, and they will riff, if not immediately, almost immediately, into the things that they don't want. And if you are concentrating on the things that you don't want, Psychology 101 will tell you what. You guessed it. Just banging straight into what you don't want and wonder, why does this keep happening? Why does this keep happening? Much like I described earlier, where context of a woman who grows up craving daddy's love, not getting at the level that she wanted, doesn't address it, doesn't understand it, doesn't address it, doesn't even know she's the fish in the water, has a hell of a time getting past that. So that is what I am going. I don't know, I'm going to leave that one there. Hopefully that made sense. It may not have. Here's something else. I think I've said this a few times over the last number of podcasts, but a real CEO, a real founder will keep everybody focused on product versus company. Super just product. Steve Jobs will say, if you want to build a great company, build great products, and people are not going to follow a lost leader. Right. So as a coach, it's like I see coaches on Facebook all the time, what I'll call oversharing, and I'm putting quotes around that, right? Like, there's just some things I got to tell you. And I have pulled up a lot of the time, we'll have clients and I see things on Facebook where they're complaining about something, or they're, you know what I mean? They're just putting things out there that I'm like, that's not what I would be saying publicly on my Facebook wall if I wanted people, to be feeling magnetic and drawn to me, my personality, who I am. Remember, it's about who you are. It's not what the mistake that influencers make all the time is they try to make people jealous of what they have. And you really want people to be envious of who you are and what you are. I wrote in an email, I got an insane amount of feedback on this, but I said something to the effect of, when I leave a tip, I don't leave a tip based on what they do. I leave a tip based on who I am. Right. And the translation of that is, yes, I tip well. As a and look, am I flown around throwing, thousands around? And the answer to that is no. Right. Like, I'm not trying to pretend to be, Michael Jordan out there, but I will tell you that I tip very well, and it's just more who I am. Right. I want you to be thinking about, for you, it's just, that's what you want to be doing. And remember, people, they'll have you believe that the world is driven by greed, but it's actually driven by envy. So again, you want people to be, if you want people to feel, I'm trying to have you feel like a magnet. What's the word I'm looking for there? You know what I mean? Like, to be drawn to you. You want to make them envious of who you are, what you are. So when I look at your face, so my question is, go have a look at your Facebook page over the last X amount of time. What is it that you're sharing? And not all of it should be. If you are all about business and only about business, I am not envious of who you are. I want to understand. I want to know about, your marriage. I want to understand about your family. I want to understand about your kids. I want to understand about you as a parent as well as a business person. There needs to be a balance in there. Anyway, so nobody's going to follow a lost leader is what I'm saying there. So don't be that. And I would, like a frame, okay, I went through a situation just recently, let's just call it challenging, annoying, pathetic, rhymes with getting stolen from at the highest level, quite frankly, but no big deal, right? But how do I want to, worrying more doesn't mean that worrying more doesn't mean that you care more, right? Um, Translation, you got to manage. You will burn out from not manage, not from, you're not going to burn out because you did so much. You're going to burn out because you didn't manage your emotions. You've got to manage your emotions. Um, yeah. So, and at what level you wouldn't, example, I'm trying to think of a good example. You're a business coach and you pitch your services 9 times in a row. Do you approach the 10th person with the same level of enthusiasm and dogmatic persistence that you did the first? And you know the answer. You know what you got to do there. Like I had used to say this, that a stolen straight from Axel from Billions. They said something about an investment, right? But like I changed it to, a good business coach closes a great deal and feels amazing, but a great business coach signs a great deal and feels nothing, right? What do I mean by that? If you, let's just say that your biggest coaching client was $50,000 and you signed him 10 minutes ago. Do you bask in the glory of that client, or are you more pumped, more dogmatic the following day to get the next client and of course support the existing person, right? But like, are you as like, you know what I mean? Are you more dogmatic tomorrow, or are you less dogmatic because now you got this $50,000 client? Do you go into cruise control? Do you go into pause, or do you go into turbo? And again, I want it to be an accelerant as opposed to a a neutral type situation. That's what I would want for you. That's what I would encourage you. Um, it's like, what is it? Successful people want you to experience how powerful they are, and then successful people want you to experience how powerful you are. You see the different frame there? You could, unhappy people want you to experience how powerful they are. Happy people want you to experience how powerful you are. See the difference in the two frames? Um, my question is, and again, we were chatting earlier about, Yvette, she's going to be going to this networking function. The mayor's going to be there. There's going to be a high level caliber of individuals in the room. One of the things I said to her is, you want to be interested over interesting. And yes, you want to be interesting. You absolutely want to be interesting. Don't just talk about, plain Jane vanilla stuff they can get anywhere. You want to conveniently drop some, you know what I mean? You just want to be interesting. And by the way, how do you be interesting? Be interesting. You know what I mean? Like, do you skydive? Do you, are you passionate about kite surfing? Are you passionate about, do you have like lots of kids? Are you like mad in how much you donate time to your kids' school? You know what I mean? Like, what are the interesting things about you? The best way to be interesting is to actually be interesting, right? Like, you're not going there to lie. The best way to be interesting is to, lead an interesting life. Have you been to like 50 countries? Have you, did you go on a Disney cruise recently? You can talk about that. You know what I mean? Are you like super funny and have like lots of jokes that you can kind of just spit out at the drop of a hat? Um, Kaz, funny, my daughter, she was at her friend's house. Oh my gosh, I laughed at this. So she was at her friend's house. But I'll tell you the whole story, right? So she's at her friend's house over the weekend, right? And my daughter, like, she's pretty funny, right? Like, I like to tell the joke. We're constantly little inside jokes and, talking about funny stuff, her and I, and, my wife as well. But there's no doubt my daughter and I, we have these little inside jokes that are just like left, right, and center. So when she tends to get around other adults, she is not shared. Like, if there's a table of like 10 adults and she's just turned 10 years old, she's sitting there. I say, baby, tell us all a joke. She has got no, well, she'll pretend like she's a little embarrassed at first, but when it comes her time to take the stage, tell a joke, she will tell it. She will tell it with some oomph, and she will not be shy. And generally speaking, and what I've experienced is she will have the entire table in absolute hysterics. And part of why they have her, or she has them in such hysterics, is the confidence at which she tells the joke, right? And sometimes the content of the joke. But anyways, topic for another day. So anyway, so she's at a friend's house on the weekend, and she was talking about how she made Rebecca, that's the mom, Rebecca laugh like she literally could not stop laughing. And she heard the mom leave the room and she continued to laugh in the other room and just couldn't stop. And I'm like, what did you tell? So Sage and I, that's my daughter's name, right? So years ago, we were playing hide and seek, right? So she is hiding in the toilet, in the washroom, right? Behind like a couple things, right? And what am I doing? We're playing hide and seek. And I go in there and do what? Yeah, you guessed it. Took a big fat number two. Right. And she's hiding behind this thing, right? I don't know she's there, obviously, right? I'm taking a crap, do my business, do. I'm probably calling out numbers or like, whatever I'm doing, right? But I'm in there, keeping the game going. And the longer it lasts, right? It's a little bit of a whatever, right? You've probably been in that situation. Anyways, I take a crap, and then and then I go back and I'm trying to find her, right? I'm looking here, then I'm like, where in the bloody, like, where is she, right? And then eventually I come and find her, and I'm like, have you been there the whole time? And she's like, yeah. I said, I came in here to take a crap, and she goes, I know. And I said, you just stayed silent. She's like, yeah. Anyways, so she tells that story to Rebecca. Rebecca couldn't believe it. You could imagine that she felt, you know what I mean? She said it in such a way, had her absolutely in hysterics. What am I saying? My 10-year-old daughter goes over to a friend's house and can handle, you know what I mean? Has a conversation and has the other mom in hysterics. My question for you, do you have the ability, have you practiced, is there a story? Is there, a joke that you could take and turn into a story with integrity, of course, right? So that the person, the mayor, the high end individual you're talking to, you'd have them laughing. And I would challenge you to say that that might be a really, really good idea. And then the question is, okay, well, what would you tell the joke about? And look, if I'm going to a networking function, then what would I do? I'd probably come up with a joke around networking because then it would be totally in context, totally appropriate, and it would make sense. Do you know what I mean? And it could maybe be a little bit on edge. And because it's so in context with networking, it would probably work well. And there you go. And that might be something you do. But at the end of the day, you want to be interested. You want to be interesting when it comes your time to talk. I would be talking 20% of the time, listening 80% of the time. Most of my talking with a high level individual that I'm trying to form a relationship with, an alliance with, trying to get somewhere with, they'd be talking 80% of the time. I'd be talking 20% of the time. And most of my talking would be around asking questions. Like if you speak to Tony Robbins, you're going to have a 10-minute conversation with him. He will talk for 2 minutes max, and you will be speaking for 8. I can almost guarantee it. So that might provide some value, but you want to be interested, and successful people, how I want you to, you know what I mean? I want to exude your power as opposed to mine, because remember, they don't remember what you say, but they remember how you make them feel. So, and by the way, you're listening to this and you're like, God, I don't know, like this is something you're going to get better at. Remember, you double a penny every day for 31 days and you end up with $10 million on day 31, right? But the problem is it's day 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 for like forever, right? So you got to have that strategic approach. So there you go. And maybe one other, I've got a bunch of questions here. I'm not even getting to any of them. But anyway, so we're almost at time. I would just look framework for coaching. I touched on it, but I think it's very important. Number one, little red arrow, or A, little red arrow, you are here. C is establish what you want. And then 2 is the coaching, is the consulting, is your guidance, is your mentorship, is basically getting them from point A to point B. Like that's it, or sorry, point C. And that is fundamentally what you want to do. So those are, no. Okay, sorry, I'm just listening. There's a few questions and comments from my internal group here, the folks on the inside, we'll call them the insiders. So that's what I got. So framework for coaching and understanding that, very, very important. That's what I would say. And now at this stage, a road dog would say, what's the one thing that we dropped that I would encourage you to take away from this. And I want to leave you with that, if you're a business coach / consultant, if you don't get it, you don't understand it, you don't address it, you don't hit this head on, you're going to have, I worded it, you're going to have zero chance of success, which again is a gross exaggeration, but pretty darn close. If you don't understand that context, and then layers of distortion that could potentially come, because you got to peel back those onions to understand. That's part of understanding. Little red arrow, you are here. Because don't think that when I say little red arrow, you are here, do you think that they're going to be able to verbally provide all of this for me? And the answer is no, without prodding and without questioning and without going deeper. And in some cases, not accepting. Like, you ever had somebody answer a question and then them be categorically wrong? And that, oh wow, I've never looked at it that way. My gosh, I'm totally, you know what I mean? I'm out to lunch. And of course the answer is, that happens. You know what I mean? Like, that happens. So understanding that the fish is the last person to know that they are in water. Your client doesn't know that they're surrounded by all these preconceived notions, all these experiences, that they're like your subconscious mind. You know what I mean? Like, your subconscious mind is operating 100% of the time. Like, when you're sleeping, it doesn't stop. It's going the whole time. It's what makes your heart break. It's what makes your heart beat. It's what makes you, has you continue to breathe while you were asleep, right? So my question is, what is that? You know what I mean? What is their subconscious mind? That would effectively be context. So anyway, so that's all I've got for today. I hope that provides some value, folks. I appreciate you. Next week, Road Dog, our boy Road Dog, will be back. So I'll end it the same way that Road Dog ends it, but progress equals happiness. So go find yourself a little bit of progress, folks. God bless. Adios. Bye-bye.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.